welcome back to the Boropolis Podcast. Now, after Friday night's antics, I already can't wait to get into this. I'm sure everyone listening and watching will know exactly what we're about to talk about. But Nathan, have we had a podcast this season where you're just ready to talk about what we've done yet? Because I just, there's so many little narratives and little stories, and I'm already going off on one, but I'm still just up a height at the fact that, of course, we did beat Manchester United in the FA Cup on Friday night. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant this past few days, seeing social media blasted with Borough posts, memes, and the full shebang, really. But yeah, a fantastic day out at Old Trafford. The Borough are inevitable at that stadium. And yeah, let's hope that we're inevitable next year in the Premier League as well.
Instead of talking about the FA Cup for this episode, at least. Do you know what? I'm just sort of a bit like bouncy, not really knowing where we're going to go straight away, but we'll try and keep it with usual order. Let's go to the teams first, Nathan. Normally I just ask you about Middlesbrough's team, but firstly, I'm going to ask you about Man United's. I mean, first of all, I don't think anyone expected that team lineup from them.
Yeah, it really, apart from De Gea in for Henderson, it couldn't really been any stronger, could it? You look at the names there: Maguire, Varane, Luke Shaw, Pogba, Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, and of course Mr. Sue himself up front. It was a team that I think not many expected, but I don't think that anyone could really predict their side anyway, because they've had a slight winter break now with the Premier League, and they probably wanted to get a few players some minutes in their legs. They've got plenty of games coming up. So yeah, it was a strange one, looking at their full strength side playing our side, but yeah, a fantastic prospect of playing that side for our side as well, I think.
Yeah, and for Borough, obviously, there was only the one change. Balogun in for Connolly. I think after the Coventry game, really, he come on and made that impact. So it was sort of expected, for me at least. But were you quite happy to see Balogun in that starting 11?
Yeah, I felt like after Coventry, he deserved that start. His first start for Middlesbrough. And I felt he deserved it after stretching Coventry and getting us that goal. Setting up that goal for Sperrar against Coventry. So yeah, I was quite happy with that one, and I felt that he could probably stretch Manchester United as well and possibly give us a good option on the counter attack with his pace. So yeah, I was happy with that one.
Yeah, so I think we'll just go straight into the game now, to be honest, because I mean, last few podcasts we've had, well, not last few, I should say. Last podcast we had the Blackburn game to talk about first, didn't we? And didn't really want to talk about it, to be honest, but I'm quite excited to just get into this game. So we'll do just that. Straight away, I mean, horrifyingly close to conceding after only a few moments. A long ball forward from, I think it was Luke Shaw. Lumley comes to the edge of his box. Dale Fry sort of playing a bit of stuck in the mud. They both kind of get in each other's way. And Lumley drops the sort of ball forward or fumbles it. I'm not sure how you would sort of describe it. And then Sancho delicately chips it over Lumley's head, and you're just expecting it to hit the back of the net and think, we couldn't even last 5 minutes. Somehow it comes back off the bar, and then Fernandes misses from about 3 yards out. I mean, if that wasn't a warning sign of what was to come, I don't really know what was, to be honest, Nathan.
Yeah, it was a very early wake-up call, wasn't it? I think Borough just needed to sort of settle in those first 5 minutes, and that was the first shot from Manchester United that was like, we're in a game here and these are going to come out the traps very well and very quickly. But you need that slice of luck when you go to Old Trafford, and we got that early on. It rattled the bar, the chip from Sancho, and then Bruno was alert to that bouncing off the bar, and luckily it just sort of lands awkwardly for him, and he fires over, and Borough get a let off early on there during that game. I'm nearly losing my words there. I'm getting excited already talking about this game.
Yeah, I mean, from one big let off to another huge let off, only really, what was it, 5-10 minutes after that into the game, still relatively early on. Paul Pogba, of course, his first start in a number of months, I think it was for Man United, manages to find himself in the box. Dijksteel, I think, in fairness, just completely slips. I don't think he's actually trying to sort of get a leg across and win the ball. I think he just slips where, you can't be too angry with that. And then Man United get a penalty early on after hitting the bar. They've then got a penalty. You really are starting to think, yeah, we could be in bother here. We could be in real bother. And then, as you say, Mr. Sue, as I think we'll just call him that all episode, to be honest with you, if you want to do that. Or Cristiano Ronaldo, for those that may not know what we're talking about, steps up for the penalty. And be honest, because, as what we spoke about last episode, I was at home watching this game. You were in the stadium. And, for those that listened last episode, you can thank me now because I wasn't there, and that's why we got the result. But Nathan, when Ronaldo puts the ball down on the spot, big Joe Lumley standing in between the sticks, trying to put him off a little bit. Are you just expecting that ball to smash off the back of the net?
I mean, yeah, really. His record from penalties is fantastic in it. But when they were first when they got the penalty, Bruno went over first, and I thought, he's going to have a little argument here of who's going to take this penalty, because, of course, Bruno's record last year was fantastic from the spot before Ronaldo came to Manchester United, and we've seen it before this season with those two having little debacles over who's going to take the spot kicks. And yeah, Ronaldo was handed the ball, and you just expect the worst, don't you, really? One of the greatest goal scorers in the history of the game. Has a free shot from 12 yards out, and you just expect him to rattle the net, don't you? But yeah, he's dragged it wide past Joe Lumley's right-hand post. The Borough fans are in absolute raptures in that away end, just almost laughing in disbelief that he's dragged it wide. Ronaldo, I've seen the replays of it, of course, and Ronaldo's looking at the penalty spot as if it's the penalty spot's fault, and you've just got to laugh at him, really, don't you? He's had an absolute nightmare there, and to be fair, he had an absolute stinker of a game as well. But yeah, we'll get into that. But again, another let off, but you kind of just look at that one and think, maybe they didn't deserve a goal from that penalty anyway, because Dijksteel, he's not trying to make a challenge, he's slipped over and caught Pogba, and they've got the penalty. There's no doubt it's a penalty, but it was an unfortunate one for Middlesbrough, and again, let off, but still 0-0, 20 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, it was more of a surprise than anything. And like you say, it was, you were just fully expecting him to sort of hit the back of the net, run off, do his usual, Old Trafford erupts, does his trademark celebration, and then you think, yeah, well, even getting it back to 1-1 is going to be a task. I mean, even, stopping them scoring is a big enough task, but, then trying to counter-attack whilst also dealing with the attacking players that they have in that side is going to be, double the task. And then, as he's stepping up, and you think, well, it was almost a sense of, well, yeah, we're 1-0 down now. And I think, it's quite ironic, because I don't know if you watched it the day before, but Gary Neville and Declan Rice released an episode of The Overlap, and it was something like 41 questions or something like that. And it was one of the questions that Neville asked Rice was, you have a penalty in the 90th minute of a game. which player, past or present, is taking it. And he said, Cristiano Ronaldo, he never misses from them big pressure penalty, situations. And then lo and behold, as you say, he drags it wide. And I was in complete disbelief, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And just before the penalty, of course, when you go to these grounds like Old Trafford and Anfield, and if people are lucky enough to go to like Barcelona and Real Madrid, of course it's like a tourist event for some fans, and they go there with the sole aim to watch Cristiano Ronaldo or Leo Messi. And I've done it myself to go and watch Messi, and been lucky enough to go and watch him. But for me, as a fan of Middlesbrough, there going to watch my team play against Manchester United, it doesn't feel like I'm there to watch Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm preying upon every downfall that he can possibly have, as well as every other Middlesbrough fan in Old Trafford in that away end. And when he was putting that ball down on the spot, and you just like scan around the ground and you see all the flashlights of cameras filming this moment, and you think, if he scores, he's doing that celebration, isn't he? He's running over the corner flag and doing that celebration. And you're just in that way and praying that it doesn't happen against your club, because it's just the most horrible thing ever. And when he's dragged that wide, it was just a laugh a minute sort of thing in that away. And it was like, as if he's dragged it against Middlesbrough. Like, it's hilarious that he's done it against our club. And yeah, it was a let off, but a funny moment for us Borough fans nonetheless.
Yeah, it went from a funny moment to a sort of slap back to earth, really, almost straight away, wasn't it? Because, Ronaldo had just missed his penalty. Everyone was thinking, wow, I mean, if he's missing penalties, this could be quite a special night, because that never happens. And then almost minutes after, we're open at the back. Some poor defending, really, from our standards. I think Dijksteel's dragged out quite high up the pitch where he probably shouldn't be. The ball's in behind. And just the 100 million, was it, for Jadon Sancho? Just the 100 million signing. Jadon Sancho finds his way in behind the Borough defence, fires left-footed across Joe Lumley, and it just makes its way into that bottom corner. And at that point, you think, right, well, that wasn't in the script at all. Poor defending from us, really. And, you've got to sort of ride your luck at times against teams like that. But quite a poor goal from our standpoint, where even if we'd have conceded that in the Championship, you would have thought that's not good enough, really.
Yeah, just one ball over the top, really. And yeah, as you say, Dijksteel was slightly dragged out, and it left Jones to fill in and mark Sancho. And Sancho brings it down pretty well, and a player of his quality is not going to miss a chance like that. And it does take a slight nick off Jones that may lift it slightly and disrupt Lumley possibly saving it. But yeah, it was, as you say, a strike back down to earth for us Borough fans in that ground, and watching at home, thinking from a moment of absolute elation with Ronaldo missing the penalty to 5 minutes later going 1-0 down. But yeah, it was a soft goal to concede, really, I think.
Yeah, it was. And then straight after that, almost, again, at this point, well, personally, I'm not sure about yourself, but I was starting to worry, because United was starting to sort of attack. And then Rashford has the ball in the net, sort of breaks him on the edge of the box. And, many things that Man United dear me, I can't even pronounce my F's today.
It's excitement.
It is. I'm going to put it down at that. Front three is known for is, Sancho goals and assists, Rashford goals and assists, Ronaldo goals and assists. And, you start to worry, don't you? And it falls to Rashford on the edge of the box. He smashes a shot under Joe Lumley. And I mean, I say smashes. I think Joe Lumley will probably look back at that with a massive sigh of relief because he just jumps over the ball, really. But it was offside, so another let off. So at this point, even though you're 1-0 down, you know, the narrative's starting to build of, well, Ronaldo's missed a penalty. We've somehow managed to have a goal chalked off from Man United's team when typically, you know, that would never be the case. Lumley's got away with one there, really, hasn't he? And they're also starting to, you know, grow into the game and really have more chances. From that point onwards, really, there was sort of a bit of a bombardment of Man United chances where numerous players got in behind, you know, fired wide, or Lumley made, you know, half decent saves in fairness. But for the remainder of that first half, it was a bit of an onslaught, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was just sort of trying to stay in it, really. Ronaldo, I can't remember if it was one or two chances in that first half on his left foot. Very similar chances in that left-hand channel being played in. And of course, Dale Fry's going to struggle to keep up with Ronaldo. He's ridiculously quick, even at 36 of the day of the game, now 37. And yeah, Lumley made some good saves with his feet there to deny Ronaldo. But yeah, they were playing some really good stuff, United, spreading play quite well. I thought Pogba did have a good first half, to be fair. And I was just sat there with my brother at the game saying, of course, Pogba's having one of the games of his life here in this first half, just spreading play perfectly. And it would be against us.
Sorry.
Pogba, yeah.
Pogba. I must have seen him on Friday night. I think he's still he must still be in Johnny Allison's back pocket.
He must be that second half especially. But in the first half, yeah, I thought he played really well. But just really trying to stay in that game with after that Rashford offside goal. There was numerous chances. I can't even remember who was having all the chances because there was a lot to think about. But we got in at half time, only 1-0 down, and it sort of felt like we were going to get a chance in that second half. And when we did get that chance, we'd hopefully take it and hopefully stay in the game in that second half and drag the game as long as it could be, to be fair.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we got into half time, I think, as you say, it was just important to really get to half time with only the one goal against us. And the fact we did manage that, you know, it was quite resolute defending. You know, there was a few good saves. I know, you know, earlier in the game, I felt that Lumley looked incredibly shaky. I think he did grow into the game, in fairness, and did make some quite crucial saves in the second half, especially. But you know, even as you say, that Ronaldo chance where Dale Fry can't really keep up with him, it's as simple as that. And Lumley makes a good stop. But there was a whole host of chances. You know, every time they come forward, you're expecting them to at least test the goalkeeper. And I think, you know, I remember on the commentary, you know, given me in my armchair position, listening to the commentary, and I think they said if Chris Wilder can get his team in 1-0 at half time, I think he'd absolutely be delighted. And I couldn't agree more with that, to be honest, because, you know, as I say, it was just a continuous attack of Man United. And it's hardly surprising when you look at the calibre of player that they have in that sort of front three, front four, and then even going into midfield. You know, Pogba's quite capable in front of goal. And even Scott McTominay, to be fair, as much as he receives some criticism, you know, he's got quite the half decent goal scoring record, actually. So yeah, there was no lack of goal scoring chances. But as you say, we got into the break 1-0 down. One thing we've got to talk about, you know, there was huge narratives around players, you know, Sol Bamba, his journey back from illness and scoring a penalty, and, you know, Matt Crooks especially. Johnny Howson. But one big story to come out of it was the fact that there was no food or drink at half-time, Nathan. I mean, when that announcement comes through, you must be pretty raging.
Well, funny story, before the game, there wasn't either.
Before either?
Before either, we got into the ground. We got in quite late, actually. There was like issues with traffic on the M62 and whatever. It was a nightmare for Borough fans to get to, but we made it in the end. And with about half an hour to go before kickoff, you want that pre-game pint to settle the nerves a little bit. And they'd closed all the concourses in the bottom tier, and it was heartbreak. But yeah, I saw a tweet about from Footy Scrans, I think it was, saying halftime food at Man United, and it was just an empty polystyrene box sort of thing. It said like a £5 or something. I can probably say it'd probably been about 15 quid if you want some chips or something at Man United. But yeah, I'm glad I wasn't paying for those in that first. Before the game or at halftime, to be fair. So, yeah.
I mean, was the all-important question was, I know you're speaking about the pint to settle the nerves. Was there something that you were, eyeing up, thinking maybe I'll have that whilst I'm in the stadium? Because I know a lot of people who every away game they go to, they're having a pie just to see what it's like at certain stadiums. Are you of that build where you think you've got to try it whilst you're here type of thing, or was it just a pint that you were going to be buying anyway?
Not at Man United, to be fair. I can just imagine that they're a pucker pie club, to be fair. So there's just no real point in trying a pie from Manchester United, is there? It's probably made of plastic. So there you go. I'm not a massive fan of that. I was just happy to sit in my seat at halftime and sort of just let my heart rate rest a little bit, because after that first half, it was panic stations.
Yeah, it certainly was, wasn't it? And to be honest, at halftime, I think it must have probably been worse for you, because I had the luxury of just popping into the kitchen and getting myself a drink. Luckily, not the £15 that you probably would have paid for, actually. Fortunately, there wasn't sort of that hysteria of thinking, because I spoke to a few people after the game, and there was quite the ironic, sue every time that Ronaldo missed a shot. But a lot of people said after the game that because of the singing and the fact that they'd had no drink at half time, that the throats were just gone the next day.
I was finished on the bus home. I couldn't speak on the bus home. It was just ridiculous. Like, throat was so dry. But got back on the bus. I had my pack up anyway. I had loads of scran on the bus, so it wasn't the worst thing in the world. And most importantly, I had a drink of water for that bus home. But it was well needed, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And do you know what else is well needed? Because I can feel the sun burning into the side of my face, mate. We'd normally record this at night, don't we? And we've done it midday today, and genuinely I'm being blinded by the sun. So in a podcast first, I'm just going to shut the curtains whilst we're... So Nathan, if you want to start talking about some of the second half action.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah, so of course, going into the second half, we've been bombarded in that first half, of course. Going into the second half, Borough just looked to keep it tight and sort of catch United on the break. But United came out in that second half and played some okay stuff to begin with, and had a chance. I think it was Sancho coming from the left, and he crossed the ball in, and Rashford was coming through at the back post, and he fired over. He should be doing better with that, for me. Upon watching it back, I think he's just lost all composure and side-footed that one into the Stretford end, and it was another chance for Manchester United that they probably should have done better with. And if they score one before Borough have their chances, then it's probably game, set and match, really. But Borough have a chance, probably our first real chance of the game, to be fair. Isaiah Jones down that right-hand side, as we've seen all season, cuts it back, and Crooks there at the near post fires a shot into that top corner, and Dean Henderson dives and I mean, it looked like a fantastic save from where I was stood in the away end. But upon watching it back, it looked pretty routine, to be fair. But that was our big chance to the game, and as Matt Crooks said in his post-match interview, he felt that was his chance.
Yeah, it was. I felt, just to sort of go back a little bit, because obviously I was battling with the curtains to make sure that, I wasn't completely blind by the end of the episode. But yeah, I think probably at halftime, I'm not completely underestimating us, and I don't want to almost sound patronising, but I think the planned second half probably would have been first 10, 15 minutes, just make sure it stays at 1-0. As the half progresses, you can get up that pitch an extra few yards and begin to put United under pressure. And that was really executed pretty perfectly, to be honest. Of course, we rode our luck with the Rashford chance. But as you say, we then had the Crooks chance. I think looking back at it, good work from Tav to switch the play out to Jones. And, from now really, even against Man United, you sort of expect Jones to make the right pass almost every time that he gets in behind his fullback and finds his way in an advanced area on the right. He does so, and then, as you say, I think probably on reflection, I think Crooks probably potentially could have done a little bit better with it. Actually, it was an okay strike, but a fairly routine save for Henderson. But then, as you say, Crooks thought that was going to be his one and only chance of glory. And then not really long after that, we have, the real turning point of the game, don't we? There was questions asked after the game for the podcast, and one of them was, what was your thoughts on the handball? We're going to dissect it now, aren't we, Nathan? So let's talk about the move first. Andras, out on the left wing, manages to body two Man United players, switches the play out wide, goes to Jones. Jones gallops forward, and you're thinking, this is more of what I've come to expect under Chris Wilder's Middlesbrough. He gets forward, and do you know what? I haven't seen a lot of credit for the initial pass into Watmore, because the cross, inch perfect onto Watmore, well, onto his knee at first. Superb cross from Jones. It then comes off his knee onto his wrist or hand or into his arms, I think some Man United fans believe. The ball then bounces perfectly. Watmore lofts it over Henderson, and there's Crooksy at the back stick, slide in and level the game up. Now, I don't know which order you want to do this. Do you want to do celebrations first, or do you want to do the handball incident first?
We'll get into the celebrations after. We'll have to dissect this. I think in the away end, a lot of people have said that they saw what was going on. But for me, I was stood behind the goal pretty much at Old Trafford in the bottom tier, and the ball's being pinged across, and I've seen Watmore get it under, and I thought, just strike it. You've got to finish this. You've got to score. And of course, he's lofted it. And do you want to know what I think? To be fair, I think it is a shot, trying to loft it over Henderson. But yeah, Crooks gets on the end of it, and it was just crazy scenes in that away end. But after initially jumping up, I thought, oh wait, I'm in Old Trafford here. There's VAR, and I've looked at the linesman, and I've seen him with his fingers on his ear, and I've thought, oh no, what's this for? Because I didn't actually see the handball myself, just because of sheer amount of people just jumping about in panic that we were in Man United's half and box at this point. So I didn't see the incident, and I thought, what's he blowing for? Like, is Crooks offside or something? And then I've seen all the United players around the referee, and I'm thinking, oh no, this is going to get disallowed, isn't it? And make us look all daft, and make all the players look daft for for running over that corner of Old Trafford and all diving all over the floor. And I thought, oh, this is going to be tragic if this gets disallowed. But the referee pointed to the centre circle, and the goal was given, and it was just more like relief than anything. It was like, we've scored at Old Trafford, we've got that equaliser, and most importantly, really, we're back in the game. But the delay sort of was like, it was just painful, to be fair, to just stand there and think, we've scored, but you can't really celebrate because you don't know if the goal's going to be given or not. But yeah, the minutes after the goal was given were fantastic in that away end.
Yeah, obviously for me, it was a whole different, scenario, because obviously I was sat in my living room. And to be honest, I've got to be totally honest. I would always tell the truth on this podcast. It went through to Watmore, and Crooks puts it in. And for me at the time, it was that much of a blatant handball. I didn't even stand up because I was like, it's going to get disallowed. And I almost felt like, I don't know how to even describe. I almost felt sorry for Matt Crooks, because I thought, he's got this absolutely magical FA Cup moment. He's grown up as a Man United fan. He's been assisted by Duncan Watmore, the Man United trainee, Crooks as well, who's previously been at Man United's academy. And I thought, it's just going to be snatched away. And I was just waiting. As soon as it hit the back of the net, I was just waiting. And then, who was it on Core Comms? Because he took a battering on social media.
Lee Dixon.
And, almost it seemed like Lee Dixon was almost, willing us to get the goal disallowed. And then all of a sudden, I think he went, yeah, this is going to get disallowed. And the main commentator just went, no, it's not. And then next thing you know, I'm jumping up and down the living room like a lunatic. And I'm thinking, firstly, we've scored at Old Trafford, but secondly, how on earth has that not been disallowed? Now we know that actually it was the correct decision. And I'm sure some people would still debate that. But it is due to the fact that it comes off Watmore's knee onto his hand, and the fact that he's not the goal scorer, and it's not a deliberate handball, which I'm sure many people might actually say it was deliberate. I mean, I've got to be honest, I had no idea that this was a rule, because they change it that much that, I was sort of bamboozled as to how it was given. I think one man in particular that was quite upset that it had been given, Mark Goldbridge, had quite the reaction on the United stand. Obviously you didn't see that until later on. I know you haven't all sorts of bother trying to look back at the goal after you'd left the stadium, but I mean, VAR, it took away from it in one point, but in fairness, I actually thought yesterday, had we have not had VAR, does that goal get disallowed?
Well, depends if the referee sees the incident, doesn't it, really? I think looking back at the replay, the goal doesn't quite look as good as I thought it did in the ground, because of Maguire and Varane not even watching the play and just holding their hands up, because players in the Premier League don't seem to want to play until the whistle. They just want to cry and whine at the referee all the time, even though there is a screen that now watches replays and decisions are made by VAR, and decisions will be referred to VAR. Players think that they still have an impact on a referee's decision, which is not the case. But suppose that just proves how thick Premier League footballers are, unfortunately. But Goldbridge evidently didn't have a clue. We didn't have a clue. I think the most embarrassing part of it all really is ITV have got specialist pundits on like Lee Dixon that have played the game and that really should keep up to date with the rules if they are to be on national TV. This game, of course, watched by millions on standard TV, and he's saying it's not going to count when it was always going to count. It's quite embarrassing, to be fair, that he didn't know the rules, but who cares? The goal counted. Borough level. It didn't stop the pandemonium, and they went for too long. And it's just amazing to watch the videos back of all the Manchester United fans from Nottingham, like Goldbridge's, cry. That simple as that, really. Matt Crooks had a slight dig at him last night on Twitter as well, which was good to see. But in the emotion of games like that, when a decision goes against your side, you sometimes say things that aren't great, and Goldbridge just fell foul for that one yesterday. Just needs to relax a little bit, especially when he shouldn't have that much of a connection to the game when he's watching it through a live stream. But oh well.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? In fairness, we should say that, Mark Goldbridge, I'm sure you've seen the exchange on Twitter last night. He said, a few things, which looking back, he's just been caught in the heat of the moment with Crooks scoring. And he apologised and said, listen, fair enough type of thing. So it's very funny to laugh at still. It doesn't take away how hilarious it is, the fact that he's almost sure that it's off, or going to be ruled out, I should say. And it's not. And yeah, I mean, there's that many sort of, as much as you look at the players, you almost sometimes forget when you're in that situation how big of a, worldwide club Manchester United are. You've got, fans from all around the globe doing these, watch-alongs and watching on streams, as you say. I can't talk. I watch the game on television. But yeah, it was hilarious, wasn't it? Let's be honest. As much as the decision, and for pundits as well, I can't even put on a high hat, and I don't even think that's a saying. I think I'm just talking absolute nonsense now. But I can't even, stand one level above them and say, well, I knew it was going to be given, because initially I didn't even celebrate. But it doesn't make it any sort of less funnier watching some of these channels back and seeing the absolute horror when they realise that actually the goal's being given and Crooksy's levelled it up at Old Trafford.
Yeah, it just makes it that little bit sweeter, I think. Watching what they'd like to call the little club go to Old Trafford, score that equaliser, and really rattle a full club and fan base by a goal, really. And I think, to be fair, a lot of fans were rattled by the decision. To be fair, no one knew that goal was going to be given apart from the referees, really. I think I've just seen absolute uproar of the screenshot of Watmore's hand out with the ball touching it, and as you say, the hand of Dunk strikes, and it gets Borough that equaliser at Old Trafford. And I think that the thought, once that goal had got in from the team, was we can't let this equaliser sort of go to waste. We just need to sit in now. If we can catch them on the break, we will. But sit in, don't give away too many sort of easy opportunities to Manchester United, and hopefully stick it out. But suppose next 5 minutes, about 5 minutes later after the goal, Borough are trying to play out from the back at Old Trafford with sort of 15-20 minutes to go, when we're going into extra time at this point, really. And Joe Lumley plays it to Howson, and I just remember seeing Bruno press him and thinking, he's won this ball here and scored. Like, he's got to score. He has got to score. It's pretty much an open net. Lumley's already dived to his left, and it's just left the full goal at Bruno Fernandes's wake, and he's only gone and hit the post.
You know, I mean, typical Middlesbrough fan, myself, you know, or you just expect, you know, we've equalised, we've had, and we've done it in the past, we've beat Man United on penalties in the past, but still I thought it won't happen again. History doesn't repeat itself twice. And as soon as Bruno hits that post, something in my brain went, this could be our night, actually. Because, as you say, I mean, and I think Joe Lumley probably admit it, it's an absolute hospital ball onto Johnny Howson's weak foot. As you say, Bruno Fernandes, one of the most deadliest players in the top tier, if not in world football, picks it up. And, you know, there's a still image, there's a screenshot of him whilst he strikes the ball with the net and what sort of angle of the goal he has. And effectively, if you're going to put it in percentage terms, he has 95% of the goal to shoot at. And he somehow still manages to hit the post. And I honestly have no idea how he's managed it, but he has. And like I say, at that point, I'm thinking, surely we cannot lose this game after the amount of chances. Ronaldo's missed a penalty. Bruno's hit the post from probably one of the easiest chances he's had in his career. And, you know, we went in extra time at that point. And, you know, I don't actually have an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or anything like that. But going into extra time, I wouldn't even like to have known what my heart rate was at, because it didn't feel normal what my heart rate was going at as we approached extra time. And we'll get into the penalties, I'm sure, but extra time was bad enough, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. Well, going into extra time, just minutes before, a ball had been played across the Borough box, and Alanga had headed it straight at Joe Lumley, quite luckily. And you thought, with all the Fergie time sort of narrative that goes with Manchester United, you thought, oh, this is just going to be typical. Borough have scored late winners over the last month or so, and were due to concede one at some point. And thankfully it wasn't Friday night at Old Trafford. Going into extra time, relief at some of the changes that they made. Sancho came off. I think that might have been was that in normal time he came off? I'm sure Sancho came off for Alanga.
Yeah, I think it was. And then I think, was it Varane?
Rashford came off and Varane. Juan Mata came on, didn't he, for Rashford, and I'm sure it was Phil Jones for Varane. Yeah. Looking at that one, I was just laughing at Phil Jones. He's such a funny player to watch, but he is also a decent player as much as he is a meme. And then Fred came on, and you thought, right, hopefully now this looks a bit more comfortable for Middlesbrough. Pogba had gone off, and you thought, right, hopefully a chance falls to us in this extra time period, half an hour. And really nothing went on until minute 115, and McNair heads the ball across, and Connolly tries a little flick, and Henderson, upon the replay, doesn't really know where the ball is and just sort of swings his arms out and clears it away. But that was probably the chance of extra time, really, and sent us into penalties, which, well, that was full panic mode, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I should say, obviously, you know, I'm very nervous at this point, you know, extremely. The sweaty hands, the sort of heart rate going, that little almost feeling of sick in your stomach where you go to penalties. And I'm sat in my living room, so I mean, just describe it for us whilst you're sat in that away end, because, I'm sure it was, multiplied by 100 whilst, in the stadium especially.
Yeah. I mean, I tried throughout the full day really to just calm myself down and relax. On the morning, I felt ridiculously confident, which is not right. Going to Old Trafford, you shouldn't feel confident at all. Going to beat Manchester United, it shouldn't be a thought unless you're Manchester City or Liverpool or a side in the Champions League. It's not a correct feeling really to have. And I just sort of kept trying to trick myself into thinking, we're not meant to win here. Like, it's not right for a second tier side to go to Old Trafford and beat them. It's not going to happen. Like, it won't happen. And then we played 120 minutes against them, had been at 1-1 for over an hour, and really, you just thought, it's look at the draw now going into this penalty shootout. I looked at the players that we had on the pitch, and I looked at the players they had on the pitch, and I thought, who's going to take our penalties? I could name maybe 3 that I'd be confident with, and then I looked at theirs, and I was looking at Ronaldo, Bruno. Like these players, Juan Mata. I was confident with Mata, and like, you just see these players, and of course, not forgetting that these played in a Europa League final penalty shootout about, less than a year ago, last summer. So these have played in the big moments and played in penalty shootouts in big moments. Of course, Maguire did it for his country in the summer. So you just look at it and think, if it's not our day, it's not our day. But we can be proud of this side for the effort that they've put in, and how much they've ground out this draw at Old Trafford. And really, going into the penalty shootout, it was just 50-50. I wasn't sort of like shaking in terms of nerves. I was just like, I hope that we don't miss penalties by going over the bar or wide. I'd rather it be saved, and a very good save at that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we had been practicing our penalties. The full squad, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, the full squad. We'll go through the penalties in order now, because I think it's quite interesting in the fact that as we progress through our penalty takers, the nerves increased more than they should have for each individual penalty taker. And when we go through the final sort of 3 or 4 penalties, it's understandable why. So we start the shootout. Paddy McNair steps up. You're thinking, do you know what? Paddy McNair's taken penalties for us in the past. Ex-United player. There was that little thing in your head of ex-United. There is that narrative to it. But without any questions, really, Paddy tucks it in the far corner, sends Henderson the wrong way. Good start of the penalty shootout. And you're thinking, right, let's see what Man United have got to throw at us. Juan Mata steps up. Ex-Spanish international, took penalties for Man United numerous times in the past. Sticks it in the corner. You're thinking, right, it's back to Middlesbrough, and it's nervous again. Then Martin Piero walks up, and in this stadium, this is also the difference, because when you're watching the next player almost anticipate as to who's going to go next, who's next in line, they're showing the replay of the penalty. So really, until they're carrying the ball to the edge of the box, you're thinking, who's going to be, who's it going to be, who's it going to be? And then it just pops up on the screen. Piero's up next. And for everything in the world, I think all Middlesbrough fans will admit that they've got a special soft spot for Martin Piero. The fact that the signing took so long, the fact that, he's got his song, he hasn't really had minutes too much, too often. I just thought, please don't miss. If Piero scores, it'll just for him more than anything. And I think that's sort of it's almost a deeper rooted thing throughout the squad, and we'll talk about it after we finish talking about the penalties. But just how likable this team actually is. There's not really anyone in the squad where, typically you could say, oh, you see him on the team sheet, you think, oh God. Like there's not anyone of that sort of ilk. But Piero takes his under the body of Henderson, and I've got to be honest, I thought he'd saved it. As soon as he struck it, I thought, oh no. But it crept under Henderson. And then again, you breathe a sigh of relief, don't you?
You do. It was it was a nightmare in that away end when Piero was going to take it. I was thinking, if he misses this could absolutely batter his confidence tenfold. A new player to this country, really. Hasn't really been too far in the fold under Chris Wilder, and he's been given this opportunity, and he's stepping up for a penalty at the Stretford End, probably the biggest stadium he's ever played in. And he's put that penalty to Henderson's left, and Henderson's dived the right way. And as Henderson's dived the right way, I've thought, oh, please no. And it's sort of, from the away end, from my seat, you couldn't necessarily see if he saved it or not. I just saw the back of the net ripple as it's gone underneath him and sort of like smashed the back of the net. And I thought, oh my God, he scored. It was like a head in hands moment, sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Brilliant that he scored that one, took that one away. And of course, that's 2-1 Borough, and the onus is now back on Man United to score theirs.
Yeah, it is. And then, as you say, one player we mentioned, international caliber, Harry Maguire. I think he smashed the camera almost in the Euros penalty final, and fair play. He gets a lot of stick, but for what he does for England, you can't really hate Harry Maguire all too that much. But in fairness, for a centre half, smashes it in the far left corner, and it's another great pen. Then we go to Johnny Howson, and there was something about me. This was the first one of the shootout, really, where I felt, I don't know, he played so well. I just think he might miss this. And I don't know what it is. You just get them weird feelings at times during penalty shootouts where you think, yeah, he's missing this. But one of the calmest penalties of them all, really. Slots it, similar penalty at Paddy McNair, sends Henderson the wrong way. And then, out of nowhere, just unleashes one of these at the home end. Gives it a little nod just to say, I don't know what everyone was worried about. And I just thought, Johnny Howson, that is absolutely capped off an unbelievable midfield performance from you. And at that point, I was just even more in love with him than I already am, to be honest.
Yeah, he's Leeds, isn't he, Johnny Howson? Leeds through and through. Former Leeds captain. And I do like it when people give it a bit to the opposition crowd, and he'd have loved that one at the Stretford End, putting that penalty away. Just so cool and composed, just slotted it in that corner, sent Henderson the wrong way. And yeah, I think now, really looking at the penalty takers that were coming up, I thought, I'm not confident for anyone coming up at all. Like I was just looking at the names and I'm thinking, I'm just not sure about the lads that are about to step up. Of course, the players that have been substituted. You look at Sparrow, who's taken penalties for us and dispatched every penalty he's taken at Borough. Crooks, I thought, would have been reliable. But yeah, I think Balogun even would have stepped up and taken one had he been on the pitch. But yeah, these next takers, I wasn't too sure on.
Yeah, well, Fred was up next, and I've just mentioned it there. That slight feeling you get where you think, I think you might miss this. In my mind, as soon as Fred stepped up, I thought he's missing this. And in fairness to him, it's a fantastic penalty. He tucks it away. Lumley actually does go the right way to his left. But Fred, it's that far in the bottom corner, he doesn't get anywhere near it. Then possibly the most divisive player in the history of Middlesbrough, I'll be honest. Maybe that's just because we're in an age of social media. Marcus Tavernier walks to the penalty spot with the ball under his arm, and you think, this, for Marcus Tavernier, is, a really big moment in his, it might sound a little bit over-exaggerated, but in his career, to be fair, because, we've hosted Twitter Spaces live. We've seen, I'm sure everyone's seen the numerous comments across social media where he does split opinion, but he possibly takes the best penalty of the lot, smashes it up high into the top. I'm trying to work out which way. Top left
of Dean Henderson. Dean Henderson's top left.
Oh yeah, I'm confusing myself there. Top left of Dean Henderson's goal. A fantastic penalty. I don't think anything less can be said. It was, as I say, one of the best of the shootout, really.
Yeah, brilliantly dispatched. I thought he had a good game, Tavernier. Of course, in the big games like that, where you're just looking to sit in there, you need players that have just tremendous energy, and Tavernier's got that. He must have an actual car engine in his body somewhere, because he just runs for days and doesn't stop, sprinting all over the place. He looked relatively composed on the ball in midfield, although playing up against Pogba and McTominay for the most part of the game, you can get dispossessed against those two, of course. Both fantastic players, and both absolutely massive as well, by the way. Huge players, very physical, and will just barge you off the ball. But I thought he had a fantastic game against those two. Howson and Crooks as well, both fantastic in that midfield three. They just work so well together, those three, don't they? And yeah, it sort of, as Wilder said in his post-match presser, he said if Howson and Tavernier had missed their penalties, he'd have felt absolutely awful for the pair of them, because he said that those two were probably his standout players on the day for Middlesbrough.
Yeah. On to the next penalty. Ronaldo steps up again. And, to be honest, he'd already missed one. I think everyone was just expecting him to smash in the back of the net. I don't think, as much as it's, an absolute rarity for a player like Ronaldo to miss one penalty in a game, he certainly was never going to miss two. He smashes it into the back of the net. And in fairness, Lumley probably gets closest to that penalty than he does any other. Gets a little touch on it, but I think the sheer power takes it into the net. Then, after Ronaldo, a player of tremendous goal-scoring ability, someone that has scored, I think, 900 goals now or something like that.
Something like that.
Steps up, smashes his in the back of the net, and at this point, you're watching the replay of that penalty and thinking, your mind switches back to, right, who's taking the next penalty? The TV then switches, from my perspective at least, and Big Sol Bamba's got the ball in his arms, and I'm thinking, right, well, this has all the potential of a ball going out the stadium over the bar. Typical defender's penalty. And that is no disrespect to Sol Bamba. I mean, he's fought back from the unthinkable. He's been a rock for us this season when called upon. And I thought, I really don't want him to miss this. But I've got to be honest, I thought this is going out the stadium. Nathan, were you thinking the exact same, or am I just, really sort of negative fan?
It's a strange one. I don't think there's anywhere in between really with centre halves taking penalties. They're either going to slot them away so coolly, or it's going absolutely wayward, to say the least. And I couldn't quite figure out what was going to happen with Sol Bamba's penalty. He did come on in extra time, for Isaiah Jones, who'd ran himself into the ground and was struggling with cramp. And it came up today on social media. Sol Bamba had one touch in the full game against Manchester United, and it was this penalty. And a lot was made of, in the summer, Rashford and Sancho being brought on very late against Italy, and they didn't have a chance to warm the legs up to take a penalty.
Yeah.
Well, Sol Bamba shut that narrative up straight away, didn't he? He just stepped up so coolly. Bit of a strange technique to put the ball on the back of the net, but he fires that one in the corner. Dean Henderson just doesn't even really dive, to be fair. He just knows he's not reaching that one.
You know what? There's not a chance I'm saving that, even if I dive. It's
I know.
taking my arm off. And, you know, in fairness to Sol Bamba, probably one thing I always just love about Sol Bamba, and rightfully so, because everything he's been through, I'm sure just the fact he still plays football, the fact that he gets to have such a wonderful life, he's always smiling, he's always laughing, he's always joking. And, you know, for a normal person like, you know, me, you, other fans, probably other players, you know, he's about to take a penalty at Old Trafford. You're thinking he should be, there's got to be some nerves in there. But it almost just felt like he thought it was a big joke. And do you know what? I absolutely love that from Sol Bamba, because that's exactly what his penalty showed. He smashes it into the bottom corner and then just sort of jogs back. Like, I don't know what everyone was worried about.
Yeah, there's no point taking it too seriously, is there really? Sol Bamba has been through it all in his career, hasn't he? He's had promotions, relegations, captain sides, and all it is for him is he's stepping up and taking a penalty for his side. Probably didn't even think about the fact that it was Man United at Old Trafford. Just probably thought he was just taking one on the training ground, almost like just taking the piss a little bit. And I mean, to be fair, his penalty did take the piss. So
yeah, it did a little bit. You know, from one penalty that took the piss a little bit to another, Bruno Fernandes, he's got that style that Jorginho has, that little hop just before he, you know, places the ball. Joe Lumley it almost felt like Joe Lumley had dived 10 minutes before Bruno just to pop it in the other side of the goal. You know, I never really felt like Bruno was going to miss. I think he was just as calm as Bamba, to be fair. From that point, we then go to Duncan Watmore. You know, this was another strange one again, like Howson for me, where I thought he'd come on, he was excellent. But we've seen Duncan Watmore miss chances that he probably should score over the months of this season during his time at Middlesbrough, really. And of course, he does score goals where you think, how's he done that? But then he also does have these moments. And I thought, is it going to be another one of them moments? Well, how wrong was I? Because just as calm, slotted in the far corner, the exact same position as Howson, and McNair sends Henderson the wrong way. And then we're back at Man United, Scott McTominay. And this was, again, probably the closest Lumley got, wasn't it? He fired to Lumley's right, and I think Lumley just dives over it, really. Looking back, possibly should save it. You know, I don't think it's a particularly bad penalty, but it's an okay height for Lumley. And I think, like I say, Lumley just dives over it. And then we come to the man that had pocketed Ronaldo all night. He was outstanding, wasn't he? Dale Fry, local lad. There was almost that feeling of Ben Gibson at Old Trafford, wasn't there, where you think, I don't think there's any other penalty that he's going to take than an absolute rocket down the middle and hope for the best. And again, proven completely wrong, because he steps up, sends Henderson the complete wrong way, smashes it, I mean, probably top corner again. And you just think, Dale Fry, who knew that he had that in his locker? And now we do. Stick him on penalties just during the season for me, because he made it look effortless.
yeah, you need confidence to go high in penalty shootouts, and he's wrapped that one in the corner. Fantastic penalty, and really not one you'd expect from a centre half either. But without going too far forward, the penalties from our defenders were all absolutely outstanding, weren't they? All risky as well, to be fair. Quite high, I suppose. Bamber's is just a slight anomaly to that one, but the way he's hit it, I suppose, is a bit of a strange technique. But yeah, fantastic penalty. And at this point in the penalty shootout, you're thinking, oh, come on, we've scored 7. Like, you've got to miss one eventually. Come on.
Yeah, you certainly did. You thought, you know what, we've took them to extra time, and that might have been enough. We then took them to penalties. We've gone past the original 5. And you're thinking, you know, I mean, how much longer are we going to have to put up with this quite worrying heart rate that we've probably got going on? I know I certainly did. Thinking, I'm not sure how many penalties I can actually see through now, to be honest, because if it gets to sort of goalkeepers and things like that, I think I'm just on the floor, sort of not really knowing what's going on. And we get to Dalot. He tucked his penalty away, another good penalty in fairness from United. And then perhaps the most worried I was throughout the shootout, Peltz, Lee Peltier, of course. We're sticking with Peltz to call him because he's that cool that he just deserves a shortened name. Nathan, just be honest with me. Where did you think Lee Peltier was putting his penalty?
Not where he put it, I'll tell you that for free. Yeah, the Scouser stepping up at the Stretford end with a penalty against, well, he's a boyhood Liverpool fan, played for Liverpool a few times, and you're just thinking, probably one of the veterans of the Middlesbrough side now stepping up to take this penalty. Hopefully, if there is nerves, they don't harm him too much. But the away end, wow, the sigh of relief when that's just sort of hit the roof of the net. It was ridiculous. You just thought, wow, surely this is going to be our day. We've had 8 penalty takers step up at the Stretford end, and they've all put away fantastic penalties. Surely this one is going to be our day. And the next one with Elanga, I think when he was stepping up, I thought, young kid, Stretford end, it is home stadium, but young kid, you're under a lot of pressure. You need to score, keep your side in it. Go on then, let's see what bottle you've got. And it turns out he was playing rugby instead, and he's hit a conversion, hasn't he? He's absolutely launched that one into the Stretford end, into the stratosphere. It's probably landed in the outside area of the Dickens, probably the day after, and yeah, Borough through.
I mean, at that moment, I can't really talk about my celebration because there's 9,500 Middlesbrough fans going absolutely mental. I'm jumping around the living room. My dad's jumping around the living room. My mum is sat there just thinking, what are you two doing? But less of my celebrations because, I mean, did you go down rows? Did people come over the top of you? Was the flare? I'm pretty sure I saw a flare go off. I mean, how good was that for you?
Yeah, it was. It was almost a thought of, I can't believe we've done it again. It was ridiculous. We've won on penalties now at the stand where all the away fans are. I don't even know what name it is, and we've won at the Stretford end on penalties as well, and just sort of in disbelief that we'd done it. Well, jumping about too much, couldn't really see the players sprinting over to that away following at the other end of the ground, just hugging everyone, hugging randomers. Couldn't believe it. I mean, I was more in shock at how high he's absolutely launched that penalty, to be fair. I don't know. I mean, I know he's obviously trying to score, but he must have seen a goal at the back of the Stretford end, because he can't have been aiming for the one that Joe Lumley was in, surely not. But yeah, the celebrations were absolutely fantastic, and this club just never ceases to amaze, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think he got a little bit of stick off a certain footballer on Twitter. But one thing that I just thought, do you know what, fair play. Joe Lumley, in fairness, he'd give us some scary moments throughout the game, but he did make up for those with some very important saves. It then goes on to penalties. He doesn't save one penalty, but as soon as he goes over the bar, he's legging it the full length of the pitch as if he's just saved one. And do you know what? I've got a lot of time for it. Everyone's following him. Tab straight over there with a knee slide. It's just ridiculous, really. Chris Wilder, in fairness, shakes Ralph Ragnick's hand, and probably one of the coolest men in the stadium, in fairness. The rest of the Borough staff are away, congratulating players, sliding, doing all sorts, really. And it was one of them moments where, again, it sounds ridiculous because these things probably don't exist. But I thought, as much as I am so jealous of not being in that stadium, I'm glad I didn't go, because if I had, we would have got beaten. I'm convinced of it.
Ronaldo would have scored that pen.
He would have.
Every chat. Rashford wouldn't have been offside in the first half. Watmore's handball is giving us handball. Everything would have gone the other way if you were there, Chris. So
yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. It was remarkable, but we've spoken about the penalties. We've spoken about key incidents in the game. But I just want to talk about certain individual performances, because there was some almighty efforts from, throughout the team. But there were certain standouts for me, and one of those was Johnny Howson. I just thought he absolutely oozed class throughout the game. And, I think probably in our starting 11, he will have been the oldest player on the pitch, possibly in both starting 11s.
Ronaldo,
yeah. But I mean, he played like a pensioner, didn't he? So,
he did.
But the fact he's up against, the athleticism of Pogba and McTominay and Fernandes, and the runners of Sancho and Rashford either side as well, on a pitch as big as Old Trafford, to cover as much ground as what he did, stick a penalty away. His passing was superb, rarely give the ball away, was there in the moments where you think, yeah, they're going to score, and then he somehow gets a leg in there. He was, I think for me, he was probably man of the match, probably just edging out Dale Fry, but just remarkable, Johnny Howson.
Yeah, he got a lot of stick towards the start of the season, to be fair. Not a lot of people thought that he could do the role that he was doing, sitting in that quote-unquote Sam Morsy role. Well, whoever's comparing Johnny Howson to Sam Morsy now, I mean, just shake of the head, to be fair. Johnny Howson, he's done it at Premier League level at times before, and it was a Premier League performance from him, really. He's still got the legs to get about the pitch, trying to make tackles, composed relatively on the ball. Just that's what you need when you go to places like Old Trafford and you're under the cosh. You need to be composed on the ball and just sort of have that calm presence in midfield to slow things down. And Johnny Howson did that perfectly for us. And I think his performance was topped off with that penalty at the Stretford end. Just cool, calm, composed and slots that one in the corner. And yeah, he probably deserves man of the match.
Yeah, I think another shout for man of the match for me, and there's two more players, including the one I'm about to talk about. I already mentioned him, Dale Fry. I mean, not only did he give us probably one of the best post-match quotes probably ever, in just saying, you know, he'd obviously give it the all right, mate. Didn't do that in the game, but instead just said to BBC Tees after, you know, I sort of didn't even look at Ronaldo because I was looking at him thinking, you know, he doesn't actually look real, and just sort of, I think Dale Fry was actually taken back by how beautiful Cristiano Ronaldo is in real life. And I just thought, you know what? He comes across as the most down-to-earth football player you could possibly meet. And he just makes me laugh because he's such a rugged, tough tackling, you know, rarely makes a mistake, central defender. But then he's just sort of such a careless bloke where you think, is this man got nerves? Is he just it's almost like he's just wandered onto Old Trafford, pocketed Ronaldo and just thought, it was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a performance that I think any defender would be proud of against arguably the greatest goal scorer ever. And he didn't really give him a sniff all day. Dale Fry, I'm just reading this off Twitter. He made 13 clearances. I mean, obviously, clearances are going to be massive at Old Trafford. You're going to be under the cosh. You need to get that ball away from your box as soon as possible, really, with the calibre of players that Man United fielded as well. 6 aerial duels won, which I thought pretty much summed him up, really. Every ball that went into the box, he was heading away. And then lastly, which I think is the most impressive, is 100% tackle success rate, which, I mean, every tackle he's attempted, he's won against one of the best sides in the world, I suppose, one of the biggest clubs in the world. So, yeah, an absolute colossus performance from Dale Fry, and hopefully he continues that into the next, well, I was going to say the next coming games, but till the end of the season and further into the future as well.
Yeah, and the final player I wanted to pick out as well, Nathan, didn't start the game, has for a number of weeks now actually struggled to sort of get his way back into the side because, you know, throughout the season, it's usually been, of course, Duncan Watmore, who I'm talking about, and Sperara up top, and he sort of lost his place. And Connolly obviously took that. Balogun's in the team now. And, you know, a lot of strikers could have quite easily thrown the toys out of the pram, thought, well, hang on a second, what have I really done? Because in fairness, I don't think you could argue too much that he probably didn't deserve to lose his place in the team. But, you know, he's just took the complete opposite sort of stance to that and thought, well, if I'm not in the team, when I do get my chance, I'm going to absolutely run as much as I possibly can, cover every blade of grass, even managed to bag an assist. Duncan Watmore, to be honest, I thought the whole game changed when he come on because he gave us something where the ball was sticking. He would then get us up the pitch with his legs, his pressing, and obviously the ability, whether he's meant it or not, like you said, just to dink the ball over a Crooksy to put that in. I thought Duncan Watmore was terrific.
Yeah, he's one of those strikers that just doesn't let defenders rest at all, does he? He runs for days, which is ideal in the Championship. Defenders are going to make mistakes in the Championship if they're put under sustained pressure. And I think what isn't really appreciated from Duncan Watmore is when we do press from the front, he usually is the trigger for the press. But hopefully after that performance, he works his way back into the side. As you say, hasn't thrown his toys out of the pram, just worked his way back in, got his opportunity, set the goal up, gave us the hand of dunk moment that no one will ever forget. And yeah, him and Matt Crooks have got that FA Cup moment that they can that they can celebrate forever, really. Going back to their former club, the club that they both supported as young lads, played in the same team together, and both were released. Well, those two just knocked Manchester United out of the FA Cup. So how sweet's that moment?
Yeah, it was a superb moment, and although we will never sort of, I mean, I think it's fair to say that me and you will never experience playing on Old Trafford and not in the FA Cup. I think that's probably a given now. As much as we probably would like to think that it's not, it is. But for, just for players like, and we could sit and talk, we could do a full podcast on everyone's performance and pick out, the remarkable moments that they all had. But those three especially, and one special mention again, I don't think there's a Middlesbrough fan in the world that you could find that would have a bad word to say about this man now, because he's just taken up the role of sort of the boy wonder. He's not even a boy. He's just, everyone loves him to pieces. Matt Crooks scores the goal, gives us a celebration. Is, we got his pre-match press conference this previous week. He's just, he has all the sort of markings of the second coming of George Friend. He's in the community. He's good value for money on social media, as we'll get on to next. His performances on the pitch are rarely below probably a 7 out of 10. He pops up with key goals. And, for him especially, I know everyone knows of the incredible work that he does for the Jordan Sinnott Foundation, which of course him and his sister Chloe help with. For him to have that moment as a boyhood Man United fan it almost made me feel a little bit emotional, to be honest with you, because it is really, when people say the magic of the FA Cup, that is what the FA Cup is all about.
Yeah, he's such a likeable character, isn't he? Watch that pre-match presser for the Man United game, and I mean, how good are those, by the way, those pre-match presses with the players? Something that we haven't seen a lot, but since Wilder came to the club, they've been going on pretty much every week with a player, and it is good to see the players come out to the press and speak. And to be fair, they speak quite well and give a lot of good quotes. Crooks singing "He's Slovenian" as well on his the other day. Just again proves how likable he is, doesn't it? And to get that goal at Old Trafford must be the things that he's dreamed of his whole life. Maybe not for Middlesbrough, but he's got that goal at Old Trafford now. He's got that moment, and as you say, good value for money on Twitter as well, with keep your arm open till 5 a.m.
Well, yeah, that leads me quite nicely onto a question that I want to ask you, to be honest, Nathan. And I didn't put this in the notes on purpose because I wanted to spring it on you. Sort of the similar sort of question to the Christmas dinner one that I sprung on you back around Christmas time, obviously. Crooks says, keep your arm open until 5. And I'm going to put to you 3 players, and I just want you to tell me what you actually think, if they did get into your arm at 5 o'clock in the morning, what they're drinking. I've put you on the spot again, I know, but I think we've got to ask the all-important questions. So, given that he tweeted it, Matt Crooks, Dale Fry, and who else likes to drink in that team? Do you know what? I'm going to let you choose the last one.
Let me choose the last one. Right.
Yeah.
So, Dale Fry loves a Carling. I can just imagine it. He just loves a Carling. Plain and simple. Just loves it. Crooksy, I can imagine he's just a Peroni man, to be fair. Really? Quite cultured. If you're going out to Yam, you may as well go all out with a Peroni. And then the last player, after that performance, I'll tell you what, Joe Lumley, after that game at Old Trafford, he'd have a million shots and Jaegers. I can just imagine Joe Lumley loving the shots and Jaegers.
Really, Jaeger especially. Yeah, do you know what? I think Lumley loves a shot. I think that really has a bit of a ring to it, actually. Like you say, I think you've got. I'm speaking like I know these people. You know, they're just footballers at the end of the day. But Big Dalo, I reckon. Yeah, I think he loves a pint. Simple and easy. Carling, it's cheap in it. And then, like you say, Crooksy, Peroni, I think could be a good shout, actually. Yeah, I think you've got them right, actually. But you know what? I think I would have answered similarly to you, or probably the same, actually. So yeah, fair play considering I chucked that one at you.
I'm sure I've seen a photo as well from the other week of Chris Wilder in Yarm. I think it was after the Reading game, and he had a Peroni in hand.
Yeah. But do you know what? I seem to remember when Sheffield United got promoted that he had quite a few, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think probably a few too many. And, you know, rightly so. He's just got his team promoted to the Premier League. But, you know, hopefully we see seen similar to that at the end of the season, because do you know what? Even now I'm thinking, and do you know what? If they had have gone out, considering they've got a game on Wednesday, they probably would have got a really big telling off of Chris Wilder. But in fairness, do you know what? I've got a lot of time for that. Crooksy, I hope they did keep your arm open until 5 o'clock in the morning for you, although I'm not sure they did. And yeah, Nathan, I think you've managed that question well, because you know you could have panicked given it was sort of thrown at you. Another question actually on Matt Crooks that was asked of us on Twitter from Ted. He asked, does Paul Pogba wear Matt Crooks pajamas? I think the obvious answer is yes for me.
Plain and simple. I think you look at the size and stature of the two players, both similar in size and stature, both playing the same position. But yeah, I think Man United have a habit of buying back players that they let go. So hopefully they don't do that with Matt Crooks after that performance.
Yeah, that would be heartbreaking to say the least. I'm sure it would be probably Matt Crooks' dream move, but it would kill a lot of Middlesbrough fans, including me. And to be honest, Ted, you know, you asked the question. If you are listening and you know of Matt Crooks pajamas being sold, then throw me a link or send me a link, because I'd be more than happy to get a pair of them. I'm sure Nathan would as well, to be honest with you.
Massively on that.
Yeah, so if you do know of any pajama places selling those, then let us know by all means. Moving on from Man United, finally, I mean, we've probably recorded a full podcast worth of Man United content, but there is other games coming up.
And big ones.
Yeah, very big ones. Back down to the sort of bread and butter of Middlesbrough's season. Championship games, big games, as you say. Firstly, before we get onto the sort of media's game that everyone's sort of anticipating, and I'm sure there'll be all sorts of God only knows going on that Saturday. But midweek, QPR coming up. Currently, QPR sit fourth, only 2 points behind Blackburn. We travel to Loftus Road. Of course, we were beaten earlier in the season at the Riverside 3-2 by them. It's going to be a really, really difficult game for Borough. And, you know, after such a big result, you'd probably be looking at that game thinking, well, for me personally at least, I'd take a point now.
Yeah, I'd snap your hand off for a point now. A very, very good side. I think that if you look at the sides that have come to the Riverside this season, I'd put them in the top 2 or 3 sides that have come to the Riverside this season so far. QPR, and they came to the Riverside early on as well. Won 3-2, played some really good football, intricate passing play. got some very, very good players. You look at Ilias Chair, Chris Willock. You've got the forwards, Lyndon Dykes, who's the top goal scorer, and Charlie Austin as well, who's always dangerous at this level. Just a slight change that they've made over the last, since the last time we played them was, I'm sure that who was the lad that got sent off against us? It wasn't Kakai because he came on. Was it Odebajo?
Yeah, it was Odebajo.
Odebajo. So Odebajo is no longer playing right wing back for them. It's a familiar face and a QPR fan as well. Albert Adoma. They've taken to him very, very kindly down at Loftus Road, as every club that has Albert Adoma does. A fantastic player and always a laugh when he's on the pitch with his dance moves. And he's scored quite recently for them as well, late at Coventry, and was dancing in front of the away end at the CBS Arena, which, yeah, hopefully we don't see those scenes on Wednesday night. But yeah, as you say, I'd snap your hand off for a point now. They're up there at the top of the table, in and around that playoff places that Borough are looking to be in and around come the end of the season as well. So taking any sort of points off them will be very good for us. And yeah, it help us out a lot getting a point away at QPR. Not only taking points off them, but we need points with the sides behind us on our tails now. And I think even sides above us starting to falter as well a little bit. With you look at like West Brom, I know they've just replaced Ismail with Steve Bruce, but we'll see how they go until the end of the season. Just lastly on QPR, they played Peterborough in the FA Cup at the weekend, and I thought, looking at the full-time result, they got beat 2-0. I thought they must have played a weakened side, but it wasn't a weakened side. It was their pretty much full-strength side. Although they did batter Peterborough in the stats, we'll just have to wait and see and hope for a similar result on Wednesday night.
Yeah, of course. Now, looking towards Derby, it's sort of been played up for months now, hasn't it, really? And it's nothing to do with actually on-the-field issues because, they're at complete opposite ends of the table, both the teams playing in this fixture. But, given the financial trouble that Derby are in, given the claims that have gone in from obviously Middlesbrough and Wickham. In fact, I believe Wickham haven't actually officially sent their claim yet, but of course we have, Derby fans, I think it would be fair to say, don't like Steve Gibson all too much, really. And they've sold out. The South Stand has sold out, I think. And it's going to probably be a game that actually, although you look at, as a football match, it's a game that we should win. You look at either side, and I think we've got the superior quality. I don't want to oversell us too much because, Derby have picked up results against teams higher up the division so far this season. They, despite the points deduction, I think one thing you can say is credit to them and Wayne Rooney, because they are still battling up until the very last moment, as we saw against Birmingham, scored a late goal against those. But I think this game is sort of being almost looked at from the fans' perspective and what's going to happen in the stadium rather than actually what's going to happen on the pitch, to be honest, Nathan.
Yeah, it's set to be a feisty encounter, I think. One that hasn't really been, well, there's always been sort of a bit of animosity between either side, just because we've usually been vying for playoff places with Derby over the years, and we've both been in and around the top half of the division with them. We've both had our fair share of results against each other. Derby have came to the Riverside and beat us before. We've been to Pride Park and beat them before. Of course, earlier on in the season, we were under Neil Warnock, and I think Borough fans just expected to go there and turn them over, really, and that wasn't the case. It was a relatively quiet game with not too many chances, but it's not going to be an easy game at the Riverside. I'd argue that it'd probably be a more difficult game going into this one than QPR, really. The onus is on us to take the game to Derby. We're the home side, and I mean, both sides will be looking to take 3 points. Derby are in desperate need of them to claw themselves away from danger, and we need them to keep up with that playoff pack and keep ourselves in and around the mix. So it's going to be a very, very strange day at the Riverside on Saturday, and hopefully, fingers crossed, the result falls Middlesbrough's way.
Yeah, fingers crossed, of course. And, I think, as you say, it's going to be a very difficult game. I think their obvious threat is Tom Lawrence, of course. I think he's got 8 goals and 4 assists so far this season, which in a team of Derby County's position is quite an incredible return, actually, a very impressive return. So that's the obvious threat for Derby. But, yeah, it's one of those where we've spoken about it before on this podcast, where league standings probably don't really come into it all that much. And actually, because of the media attention that the game's probably going to get, because of the sort of rivalry that's become over the past few months between Middlesbrough and Derby, it almost actually has that feeling of a Derby fixture, doesn't it? Pardon the pun, that form's going to go out the window. And it's going to be one of those occasions where I think both sides are going to have to be at the best. And as you say, hopefully Middlesbrough come out on top. Nathan, we've covered what is probably going to be one of the highlights of the season. Hopefully not the highlight of the season. We've covered 2 games going ahead into a massive week for Middlesbrough. I don't think there's anything I've missed out, but please let me know if there is.
Just one last thing. Of course, I think everyone's still on the high from beating Manchester United at Old Trafford, and that's not to be shouted down upon, but looking to the future in the FA Cup. The FA Cup, the draw was made yesterday. Tottenham Hotspur coming to the Riverside. Antonio Conte's Tottenham Hotspur coming to the Riverside. A bit of a different Spurs now from earlier on in the season that were struggling a little bit. They look to be back on the right track under a manager that's undoubtedly one of the best in the Premier League. And yeah, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, these players are coming to the Riverside to play Middlesbrough. But yeah, what's your thoughts on it, Chris? Are you worried, or do you think that after playing Manchester United at Old Trafford with all their star men and their high caliber names, do you think that playing Tottenham at home is in our favour compared to an away fixture this time?
Yeah, I think obviously it's an exciting draw, isn't it? Again, different people look at the cup in various ways, and some probably, I think I'd fall into that category, would have preferred a lesser team at home and, a chance to progress further. But some people, and, rightfully so, kind of would prefer the big sort of glamorous tie. Probably, again, it's going to be selected for TV coverage. But yeah, it's the same mold as sort of the Man United game, where we don't really have anything to lose again. Of course, we don't want to embarrass ourselves, but as long as we give a good account of ourselves, put in a good performance, for me, the result probably becomes secondary. And yeah, I think like Man United, Tottenham will be there to be got at, especially at the Riverside. I'm sure it'll be a very healthy crowd. And yeah, Nathan, I'm quite happy with the draw, to be honest.
2 games away from Wembley, Chris.
Steady on you. I think that sweeping statement from Nathan leads us quite nicely on to finish this podcast up, to be honest. I feel like, again, I don't know how long we've been recording for, but it feels like a long one, certainly, because we spent about 10 minutes talking about what drinks Borough players will be having in Yarm. And, that's what we're all about on this podcast. So from us again, thank you very much for watching and listening. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a comment. Last week, I know I did say, leave us a comment as to where you're watching or listening from, because it's just quite interesting to find out. I think we got one tweet, I can't remember the name, so I apologise for that had tweeted in saying that you were listening whilst on the dog walk through Albert Park. So I think I replied saying, I hope the dogs had a nice walk as well. But I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and I hope you enjoy it again this week. But yes, from me and Nathan, thank you ever so much for watching and listening again. And that has been another episode of the Boropolis Podcast.